Caleb Turner had lived on his ranch for so many years that the sound of the dry desert wind felt almost like an old friend. Every morning began the same way for him. He woke up early, fed his horses, checked the fences, and watched the sun rise slowly over the flat Arizona land. Life was quiet, sometimes too quiet, but he had learned to accept the silence. It was the only thing that stayed with him after the loss of his wife. Everything else had changed, but silence always stayed. One late afternoon, while he was repairing a broken water pipe near the edge of his property, he noticed something unusual. At first, he thought it was a small animal lying on the ground. The heat often caused creatures to wander close to the ranch in search of shade or water. But as he stepped closer, he saw that it wasn't an animal at all. It was a young girl, barely older than 13 or 14, dressed in simple traditional clothing, her long black hair tangled with dust. She looked weak, like someone who had walked too far under the burning sun. Caleb's first instinct was concern. He hurried toward her and called out, asking if she could hear him. The girl tried to lift her head but didn't have the strength. Her lips were dry, and her eyes looked both tired and scared. Caleb knelt beside her. He could see right away that she was dehydrated and exhausted. He reached for the water bottle hanging from his belt and held it near her lips. But to his surprise, the girl pulled back slightly. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I beg you, just make it quick." Caleb froze. The words hit him so unexpectedly that he didn't understand at first. Make what quick? Why would she say something like that? His heart tightened. He had never heard such fear in someone's voice before, especially not from a child. He gently shook his head. No, he said softly. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." But the girl didn't seem fully convinced. She had been raised hearing stories passed down through generations, warning her about ranchers who did not like her people. She didn't know Caleb. She didn't know his heart, his history, or the quiet sadness that shaped every day of his life. All she knew was her fear. Her breathing became shaky, and she whispered again, "Please, I don't want any trouble." Caleb felt a deep ache inside him. The fact that this girl believed she needed to beg for safety made him feel as though the world had failed her. He placed the water bottle gently beside her hand and stepped back a little, showing her he wasn't forcing anything. He kept his voice calm and warm. "You're not in trouble," he said. "You're tired. You're thirsty. Let me help you." The girl hesitated, then weakly reached for the bottle. Her hands shook as she took small sips, careful but desperate for relief. Caleb waited patiently, letting her drink as much as she needed. Only when she had enough did she lower the bottle and finally meet his eyes. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. "My name is Nayeha." "Nice to meet you, Nayeha," Caleb replied gently. "I'm Caleb Turner. You're safe here, I promise." She blinked slowly, studying his face. She saw no anger there, no threat, only concern. Slowly, her fear softened into exhaustion. Caleb asked if she could stand, but she tried and nearly fell back down. Without hesitation, he bent down and lifted her carefully into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, and he could feel her trembling from weakness. He carried her toward the ranch house, walking slowly so she wouldn't get startled. Inside, the living room was simple. A wooden table, a few chairs, a couch that had seen better days, and old photographs on the wall. Caleb placed her gently on the couch and brought her a damp cloth to cool her forehead. She watched him with cautious eyes, still unsure. But she didn't resist anymore. Once she was settled, Caleb warmed a small bowl of soup. When he handed it to her, she hesitated once more, but hunger convinced her to take it. She ate slowly, as though every movement required effort. Between small bites, she told him what had happened. She had been traveling with her group across the desert to visit relatives. A strong dust storm appeared suddenly, separating her from the others. She tried to find them but ended up walking in the wrong direction. Hours passed. The sun grew hotter. She knew the dangers of the desert well enough to understand she was in trouble. When she reached the ranch, she feared the worst, remembering stories from elders about times when misunderstandings between ranchers and her tribe had caused tension. Caleb listened carefully, nodding now and then. When she finished, he assured her that nobody on his land would harm her. He explained that he lived alone, far from town, and rarely had visitors. He told her about the medical volunteer who drove through the area every few weeks, and how he planned to contact her for help. Nyeha rested her eyes for a moment, listening to the humming sound of the old fan turning above her. The house smelled of warm wood and dust, but also safety. She could feel her worries start to loosen their grip. Caleb made sure she drank more water, then let her rest. He stepped outside for a moment to breathe. Her words still echoed in his mind. "I beg you, just make it quick." It wasn't just fear. It was the kind of fear that came from history, from stories, from things she had been taught long before she met him. He couldn't change her past, but he could change her present, and maybe, in a small way, her future. He walked back inside quietly. Nyeha had fallen into a light sleep, her breathing steady now. Caleb didn't wake her. Instead, he placed a thin blanket over her. Watching her sleep, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of purpose. Life on the ranch was quiet, but maybe too quiet. Helping someone, protecting someone, reminded him of who he used to be before loneliness took over. Hours passed. When Nyeha woke again, the sky outside had turned a deep orange as the sun dipped behind the hills. She sat up slowly, looking around, surprised that she was still safe, still untouched, still treated with kindness. Caleb asked if she felt better. She nodded. Her shoulders seemed a little less tense. Trust didn't appear all at once, but something inside her had shifted. She thanked him softly, the words almost shy. Caleb smiled gently, the kind of smile that carried warmth but not pressure. He explained that once she regained more strength, they would try to contact someone from her tribe. Until then, she could stay at the ranch. There was plenty of space, plenty of food, and no reason for her to fear anything. Nyeha looked down at her hands for a moment. "I didn't think anyone would help me," she whispered. "You deserve help," Caleb said simply. "Anyone would." Those words stayed with her. Then, for the first time since meeting him, she felt safe enough to relax her shoulders and breathe more fully. Caleb returned to the kitchen to refill her water, and as she watched him move around quietly, she realized something surprising about him. He didn't move like someone who wanted to control or command. He moved like someone who understood pain and didn't want others to feel it. The ranch that had once seemed frightening now felt calm. The world outside still held uncertainty, but inside these wooden walls, she felt protected. And this was only the beginning of a story that neither of them could have predicted. Caleb woke up early the next morning, as he always did. But this time something felt different. As he stepped into the quiet living room, he saw Nyeha still sleeping on the couch, curled up under the thin blanket he had given her. Her breathing was steady, peaceful, almost childlike. It was the first time in years that his home didn't feel completely empty. He stood there for a moment, watching her carefully, not wanting to disturb her. He wondered what she must have gone through walking alone in the desert, afraid of everyone and everything around her. The fear in her voice from the day before still stayed with him, echoing quietly in his mind. He didn't want anyone, especially not a young girl lost in the desert, to ever feel that unsafe again. While she slept, he decided to prepare breakfast. He moved softly in the kitchen, frying eggs, making some warm bread, and heating water for tea. The smell slowly spread through the house. After a while, he heard small footsteps from the living room. He turned to see Nayeha walking in slowly, still looking tired but more alert than the day before. "Good morning," Caleb said gently. She hesitated before replying. "Good morning." Her voice was quiet, but not as shaky as before. She sat down at the table, unsure if she was allowed to, until Caleb motioned for her to join him. He placed a plate in front of her, and she looked at it with grateful eyes before eating quietly. As she ate, Caleb asked, "Do you feel a little better today?" She nodded. "Yes, thank you." Then she added softly, "You didn't have to help me." "I did," he said simply. "Anyone would help someone in trouble." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she kept her gaze low, her fingers playing with the edge of her sleeve. After a moment, she whispered, "Not everyone helps my people." Caleb paused. Her words were calm, but heavy. He understood without her explaining further. There had been long years of distance between her tribe and many ranchers in the area. Misunderstandings, old stories, and unspoken fear kept people apart. "I'm not everyone," Caleb replied in a soft tone. She finally looked up at him. Her eyes were dark and thoughtful, as if she were trying to decide whether she could trust that answer. A small part of her already believed him, but the rest was cautious, like a door slightly open but not wide enough to step through. After breakfast, Caleb went outside to check the animals. To his surprise, he heard footsteps behind him. When he turned, he saw Nayeha standing at the doorway, watching him. She didn't step outside, but she seemed curious. Maybe she wanted to see what ranch life looked like. "You can come out if you want," he said gently. She shook her head shyly at first, but after a few seconds, she took a small step forward. The sunlight hit her face and she blinked at the brightness. Caleb smiled and pointed to the horses. "This is Daisy," he said, nodding toward a calm brown mare. "She's gentle. Would you like to meet her?" Nayeha hesitated again, but slowly walked closer. Daisy lowered her head curiously, sniffing the girl's hand. Nayeha touched the horse's nose lightly, and for the first time since arriving, a small smile formed on her face. "She's beautiful," she whispered. Caleb was glad to see her smile, even a small one. He explained how he cared for the horses, how he fed them, and how they helped him with ranch work. Nayeha listened quietly, watching every movement, as if studying a world she had never seen before. After spending some time outside, fatigue caught up with her again. Caleb noticed her steps slowing and asked her to rest. She didn't argue. The desert journey had taken more energy from her than she wanted to admit. She returned to the couch and lay down again, closing her eyes but not sleeping. Meanwhile, Caleb walked to the small shed where he kept his old radio. It didn't always work well, but it was his only way to reach the medical volunteer, a friendly woman named Clara who visited the area from time to time. He tried to get a signal, adjusting the dial back and forth. It took several minutes, but finally he heard a faint scratching sound and then Clara's voice. He explained the situation quickly, without panic, but with enough urgency that she understood. Clara promised she would try to reach the ranch by the following afternoon, depending on road conditions. When Caleb returned inside, he found Nayeha sitting up, her hands folded on her lap. She looked nervous again. "Are you sending me away?" she asked quietly. Her question surprised him. "No," he said with a gentle laugh. "Why would you think that?" "You were talking to someone," she said slowly. "Maybe to tell them to come take me away." Caleb sat across from her. "I called a nurse, someone who can check your health. I want to make sure you're okay." For a moment, she looked unsure, but then she nodded. She didn't fully understand his world, just as he didn't fully understand hers, but she was starting to see that his actions matched his words. Throughout the day, Caleb noticed small changes in her. She no longer flinched when he walked past. She didn't watch the door as if planning to run. She started asking simple questions about the ranch, about the animals, even about the photos on the wall. One picture in particular caught her attention. It showed Caleb smiling beside a woman with kind eyes. "Who is she?" Nyeha asked. Caleb's expression softened. "My wife," he said quietly. "She passed away a few years ago." Nyeha lowered her head slightly. "I'm sorry." "Thank you," he replied. "She loved helping people. She would have been glad you're here." That seemed to comfort her. She looked at the photo again, studying the woman's warm smile. Somehow it made the house feel less strange, more welcoming. Later in the afternoon, Caleb brought out an old wooden box filled with simple tools. He planned to fix a broken drawer, but when he sat on the floor to start working, he noticed Nyeha watching him. "Have you ever fixed anything like this before?" he asked. She shook her head. "Do you want to learn?" She hesitated, then nodded shyly. Caleb handed her a small piece of sandpaper. She watched carefully as he showed her how to smooth the rough edges of the drawer. She followed his instructions slowly, her small hands moving back and forth. He encouraged her gently, praising her for doing well. With every minute, she grew more comfortable, more open. They spent the rest of the afternoon working together quietly. It wasn't much, just two people fixing an old drawer. But it created a bridge between their worlds. As evening approached, the sky turned golden and the shadows outside grew long. Caleb made dinner, and they ate together again. This time, Nyeha spoke a little more. She told him about her family, about the river near her home, about the songs her grandmother taught her. Caleb listened with genuine interest, asking questions, but never interrupting. Her stories painted pictures in his mind, of community, of tradition, of a life very different from his own. After dinner, she sat by the window, watching the sunset. Caleb stood beside her. "Thank you for being kind to me," she said softly. "I didn't expect that." "You deserve kindness," he replied. "Everyone does." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. That night, as she fell asleep under the same thin blanket, she no longer felt afraid. She felt safe. She felt seen. She felt understood, even if only a little. And Caleb, as he watched over her quietly, realized something too. Helping her had filled the empty spaces in his life more than he ever imagined. This unexpected connection between them was growing into something strong, something meaningful, something that would soon change both of their lives in ways neither could predict. The next morning came with a soft light slipping through the thin curtains of the ranch house. Nyeha woke slowly, stretching her tired limbs. She felt stronger than before, though a little stiffness still held in her legs. When she opened her eyes, she noticed Caleb sitting at the dining table, writing something on a small notepad. He looked focused, but peaceful. She watched him for a moment before sitting up. Somehow she felt comfortable enough to be quiet near him without feeling nervous. That was new for her. Caleb looked up when he heard the soft rustling of the blanket. "Good morning, kiddo," he said with a gentle smile. She blinked. "Kiddo?" he chuckled. Just a friendly word? If you don't like it, I can stop." She thought for a moment, then shook her head. "It's okay." Caleb nodded. "Breakfast is almost ready. You must be hungry." She was, but she didn't say it. Her shy silence already told him enough. He served her warm oatmeal with honey, simple but comforting. She ate slowly, glancing around the room. The house that had looked strange and unfamiliar only 2 days ago now felt calmer, like a safe place where she could breathe without fear. After breakfast, Caleb walked outside to check the animals again, and this time, Nyeha followed without hesitation. The ranch morning was peaceful. Birds sang softly from the wooden posts, and the horses moved gently, their tails swishing in the light breeze. Daisy, the mare she had met the day before, walked toward her with curious eyes. Nayeha smiled and reached out her hand. Daisy pressed her warm nose against her palm. Something about the horse's gentle nature eased the last bits of tension from her mind. Caleb leaned against the fence, watching her. "You have a way with animals," he said. She shook her head. "I don't know much about horses." "You don't need to know much," he replied. "They feel kindness, and you have that." She paused at his words, not sure how to respond. Compliments were something she wasn't used to, especially from strangers. But she felt the truth in his tone. He wasn't trying to flatter her. He was simply saying what he saw. They spent the next hour walking around the ranch. Caleb showed her the chicken coop, the storage shed, the old windmill that squeaked when the wind picked up. She listened quietly, asking small questions now and then. By midday, she was tired again. Caleb noticed the subtle way her steps slowed and suggested she rest. She didn't argue. He gave her a soft cushion for the couch, and she curled up, letting her eyes drift closed. While she rested, Caleb fixed a loose board on the porch. He moved slowly, his thoughts drifting to the girl inside his home. Something about her reminded him of the daughter he never had, the daughter he once hoped to have with his wife. Life hadn't worked out that way, but somehow, helping Nayeha made him feel like he had a chance to care for someone again. When she woke up later, she found Caleb sitting on the couch across from her, reading a book with his glasses perched on the tip of his nose. She watched silently for a moment. "What are you reading?" she asked. He looked up, slightly surprised that she had spoken without hesitation. "Just an old history book," he said, closing it gently. "Do you like reading?" She shook her head. "I like listening to stories. My grandmother tells many stories." He leaned forward slightly. "Would you tell me one?" Her eyes widened with surprise. "You want to hear one of my stories?" "Of course," he said. "If you feel like sharing." She took a long breath, as if gathering courage. Then she began. She spoke of warm summer nights in her village, when her family sat outside their home around a small fire. She described her grandmother's voice, soft but strong, telling stories of bravery, wisdom, and hope. She talked about the river that ran near her home, the trees that whispered in the wind, and the songs the elders taught her as a child. Caleb listened carefully, nodding every now and then. He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush her. He simply let her speak, letting every word paint a picture of her world. And she, for the first time since being separated from her group, felt a little bit of home return to her heart. When she finished, Caleb said, "Your world sounds beautiful." There was a long, warm moment of silence. Then she asked, "Do you have stories?" He smiled softly. "Not like yours, but I can tell you about my wife." Her expression softened. Caleb spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. He told her how his wife loved to help people, how she had a gentle laugh that filled the house, and how she always planted flowers near the porch because she said the ranch needed more color. Nayeha listened quietly, respecting the softness in his voice. She could tell how deeply he cared for the woman in the photograph. The way he spoke made the house feel fuller, as if the memory of his wife still lived in every corner. After the stories, Caleb suggested they take a short walk to get some fresh air. The desert around the ranch stretched far and wide, but from a safe distance, it looked calm and beautiful. They walked slowly, the warm wind brushing against their faces. At one point, Nayeha stopped and looked at the distant horizon. "My people might be looking for me," she said. "Maybe they think something happened." Caleb nodded. "Clara, the nurse, is coming tomorrow. She'll help us contact them when she arrives." A look of relief passed through her eyes, but also a hint of worry. "What if they think you did something wrong?" Caleb shook his head gently. I know how people can misunderstand things, but I'm not worried. I know the truth, and you know the truth." Then he added with a warm smile, "That's enough." His confidence eased her worries. She looked at the ground, her voice soft as she said, "You have been kinder to me than I expected." "That's just the way I was raised," he replied. "Kindness doesn't cost anything." They walked back to the house, and Caleb made tea while she sat near the window, watching the light dance across the wooden floor. She felt something she hadn't felt since being lost in the storm. She felt safe. Later in the afternoon, Caleb brought out his toolbox again. This time he asked if she wanted to help him mend a wooden chair. She nodded eagerly. He showed her how to hold the tools, how to sand the edges gently, how to fit the pieces together. Her small hands worked carefully, and he guided her with patience. The simple task brought small moments of laughter. At one point, she accidentally dropped a screw, and it rolled across the floor. She gasped and chased after it, making Caleb chuckle. The sound of his laughter made her smile, really smile, for the first time since arriving. By evening, they had finished repairing the chair together, and it looked almost new. Caleb sat on it proudly, leaning back. "You did most of the work," he said. She shook her head shyly. "You taught me." "That's how learning works," he replied. "Someone shows you the way, then you try." As night settled in, they had dinner again. The atmosphere felt different now, warmer, more open. They talked a little more, shared small stories, exchanged gentle smiles. The distance between their worlds seemed to shrink bit by bit, like two paths slowly curving toward each other. When it was time to sleep, Nayeha felt calm. She knew tomorrow would bring more changes, maybe even a reunion with her people. But for now, she felt peaceful knowing she wasn't alone. And Caleb, sitting quietly in his worn-out armchair, felt something he hadn't felt in years, a deep sense of purpose, like life had brought him a chance to care again, to help someone who needed him. Neither of them knew how much this bond would shape their future, but both felt something growing between them: trust, respect, and a quiet connection strong enough to bridge two completely different worlds. The next day began with a soft knock on the ranch door. It was still early, and the warm morning sunlight had only just begun to spill across the wooden floor. Caleb was in the kitchen preparing breakfast when he heard the sound. Nayeha, who had been sitting quietly at the table, looked up with curious eyes. Caleb wiped his hands on a towel and walked to the door. He opened it to find Clara, the traveling nurse, standing with her medical bag. Her kind smile brightened the doorway. "Well," she said cheerfully, "you weren't kidding on the radio. You really do have a guest." Caleb stepped aside. "Come in, Clara. It's good to see you." Clara walked in, her curious gaze softening when she spotted Nayeha. She immediately crouched down to make herself level with the girl. "Hello there," Clara said gently. "I'm Clara. I hear you've had quite a long journey." Nayeha hesitated, then nodded slowly. Something about Clara's warm tone made her feel more comfortable. Caleb poured Clara a cup of tea while she began her examination. She checked Nayeha's pulse, temperature, and hydration levels. Throughout the process, she explained each step so the girl wouldn't feel scared. Nayeha listened carefully, even asking a few soft questions. "You're healing well," Clara said finally. "A little rest and plenty of water will get you back to full strength." Nayeha looked at Caleb with the smallest smile, proud of her progress. Caleb smiled back, happy to see her confidence growing. Clara packed her things and sat down with them at the table. "Now," she said, "we should find a way to contact her people." Caleb nodded. "Do you have a way?" Clara pulled out a small notebook filled with numbers and names. "I know someone from the tribal community center. They can get the message out." Hearing this made a wave of emotions pass across Nayeha's face: relief, hope, but also worry. She wasn't sure how her people felt now or what they might think about her staying with a rancher. Clara noticed her expression and gently rested a hand on her shoulder. "Your family will be very glad you're safe," she said softly. A quiet comfort filled the room. After Clara made the call outside, she returned to the kitchen. "They'll spread the word," she said. "Your group might already be searching nearby. They'll come as soon as they can." Nyeha lowered her gaze, absorbing that news slowly. Caleb watched her carefully, knowing she must be feeling many things at once. Clara stayed for lunch, talking and laughing with both of them. She told them stories from her trips across the desert, funny stories about stubborn goats and confused tourists who expected Arizona to have paved roads everywhere. Even Nyeha quietly laughed at her dramatic storytelling. When Clara finally packed up to leave, she hugged Caleb and gently squeezed Nyeha's hand. "You're in good hands here," she told the girl, "and you're very brave." After the nurse left, the ranch returned to its usual quiet hum, but something was different now. The thought of soon meeting her people made the air feel slightly heavier around Nyeha's heart. Caleb noticed her silence. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I am, but I'm thinking." He waited patiently, giving her time. "What if they think I shouldn't have stayed here?" she asked finally. "What if they don't understand?" Caleb moved a chair beside her and sat down. "You did what you needed to survive. Anyone would understand that." "But you're a rancher," she said softly. "And you're a young girl who needed help," he replied. "Everything after that is just details." She looked at him with thoughtful eyes, seeing the truth in his words. Still, part of her wonder remained. The rest of the afternoon passed peacefully. Caleb returned to his chores, and Nyeha helped wherever she could. She carried small buckets of feed, gathered eggs from the coop, and even helped sweep the porch. The simple tasks kept her mind calm. At one point, she looked up at the sky, noticing how the clouds moved gently across the blue space. She wondered how far her tribe might be by now. Maybe they were already close. Maybe her grandmother was worrying. Maybe her parents were searching. But for the first time, the thought of leaving made her heart ache a little. She didn't understand why at first. Then she looked at Caleb, who was repairing the fence nearby, humming quietly to himself. She realized she had grown to trust him. She had grown to feel safe here. Later in the day, Caleb asked if she wanted to learn something new. She nodded eagerly. He brought out a leather strap and showed her how to braid it into a strong rope. She watched closely, her small fingers trying to copy his movements. He guided her gently, letting her practice until she succeeded. "You're good at this," he said with a warm grin. She blushed lightly. "You explain things slowly. That helps." The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The ranch seemed peaceful in the glowing light. They sat on the porch together, watching the day fade. "How long have you lived here?" she asked. "Most of my life," he replied. "My father built this ranch. He taught me everything I know." "Did you like growing up here?" He smiled softly. "It was quiet, but the land teaches you patience, respect, hard work." She nodded, imagining a younger version of him running across the fields, learning to care for animals and fix things. "Do you ever feel lonely?" she asked after a while. He looked out toward the distant hills. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But lately, not so much." Her heart warmed at those words. She didn't say anything, but she felt something gentle settle inside her. As the night deepened, stars began to appear. The sky looked wide and endless. Nyeha watched in awe. "The stars look different from my home," she said. Caleb leaned back in his chair. "Maybe it's because you're seeing them from a new place. Sometimes a new place helps us see familiar things differently." She thought about that quietly. Before going inside for the night, she asked softly, "Caleb, will you be okay when I go back?" He paused, surprised by the honesty in her question. He looked at her with a gentle smile, not forced, not sad, just real. "I'll miss having you around," he said. "You've brought life back into this quiet house, but knowing you'll be safe with your people, that will make me happy." Her eyes softened. It was the first time someone outside her tribe had spoken to her with such warmth. Inside, as she settled onto the couch with her blanket, she felt a strange mix of emotions: comfort, fear, hope, sadness. She didn't know when her people would arrive, but she knew it would be soon. And now, for the first time, she wasn't entirely sure she was ready to leave the ranch behind. That night, she fell asleep thinking of the man who had helped her without knowing her name, and of the unexpected bond that had formed between them. Gentle, fragile, but real enough to change the way she saw the world. And somewhere deep inside, she hoped that no matter what happened next, this place and this kind man would remain a quiet memory she carried forever. When the sun rose the next morning, Caleb felt a strange mix of calm and worry. He stood on the porch of his ranch, looking out at the land that stretched in every direction. For the first time in years, his ranch didn't feel silent. Even though Nayeha was still asleep inside, her presence made the whole place feel warmer. He didn't know what would happen today, but he could feel something coming. Deep inside, he knew that her people must be getting closer. He walked back into the house and found her awake, sitting quietly near the table. She had braided her long hair neatly and looked much stronger than when he first found her. Still, her eyes showed a hint of nervousness, like someone who knew a big moment was near. "Did you sleep well?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Yes. Thank you for everything. I feel better now, and I think today might be the day." Caleb understood what she meant without needing more words. He fixed breakfast, and she helped him, moving around the kitchen with new energy. They shared a simple meal together. It was quiet, but not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence two people share when they feel safe with each other. After breakfast, they walked outside. The air was cool, and the sky was bright blue. Birds circled above, and somewhere far off, a group of horses neighed. Everything looked peaceful on the surface, but both of them felt a strange pressure inside. It was like the land itself was holding its breath. Caleb looked at her gently. "No matter what happens today, you're not alone. I'll make sure everything goes well." Nayeha smiled, and her eyes filled with emotion. "I know. You helped me when you didn't have to. I will never forget that." Hours passed slowly. They waited while tending to small tasks: the horses, the barn, the quiet corners of the ranch. Every now and then, Nayeha would look toward the distant hills, as if listening for something only she could hear. Then, sometime in the early afternoon, she stopped walking. Her eyes widened a little. She touched Caleb's arm, signaling him to listen. At first he heard nothing, but after a few seconds he picked up faint sounds, voices, footsteps, and the soft rustling of movement traveling across the dry land. "They're here," she whispered. Caleb's heart beat faster, but he tried not to show it. Together they walked toward the fence line and waited. Soon, a small group appeared over the ridge, men and women from Nayeha's tribe, dressed in traditional clothing, carrying supplies and tools. They moved with purpose and worry. It was clear they had been searching for days. When they spotted Nayeha, relief washed over their faces. A few of them broke into a run. Caleb stepped back respectfully, giving her space. As soon as her people reached her, they gathered around her with open arms, touching her shoulders, her hair, her face, checking she was real, safe, and unharmed. They spoke quickly in their own language, and though Caleb couldn't understand the words, he understood the emotion. It was strong, full of love, concern, and thankfulness. But when the group finally noticed Caleb standing quietly a few steps away, their faces changed. Some looked cautious, others seemed unsure, a few looked protective. It was clear they didn't know who he was or what had happened between him and the girl they cared for so deeply. One of the older men took a step toward Caleb. His posture wasn't hostile, but it held firmness, like someone who needed answers before trusting a stranger. The man asked a question in English. "Who are you?" Caleb straightened, choosing his words with care. "My name is Caleb Turner. I found Nayeha near my ranch. She was lost and weak. I brought her in, gave her water, food, and a safe place to rest." Before the man could reply, Nayeha stepped forward with confidence. She positioned herself between Caleb and her people, showing with her body language that she was not afraid and that she trusted him. "He saved my life," she said clearly. "I was afraid when he found me. I thought something bad would happen. But he showed me kindness. He helped me when I had no strength. He protected me." Her words carried weight. Her people looked at her, then at Caleb. The tension began to dissolve, slowly but noticeably. The older woman, who seemed to be an elder, stepped forward next. She studied Caleb's face for a long moment, like she was searching for the truth behind his expression. Then she nodded gently. "Thank you for taking care of her," she said. Caleb bowed his head respectfully. "I'm glad she's safe now." The atmosphere softened. Some tribe members approached Caleb with small nods of appreciation. A few even smiled slightly. It wasn't sudden trust, but it was enough to show that they believed Nayeha's words. As the group prepared to leave, Nayeha turned to Caleb again. Her people waited patiently, giving them a moment. She looked at him with a mix of sadness and gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. "You already did," he replied. "You're safe. That's what matters." She hesitated for a moment, then said, "This place, your ranch, it helped me in many ways. I came here scared, but I'm leaving stronger. I will come back to visit. You shouldn't live alone all the time." The warmth in her voice surprised him. He had grown used to silence and solitude, but her presence had reminded him what it felt like to care about someone again. "I'd like that," he said. Before leaving, Nayeha took a small beaded bracelet from her wrist. It was handmade, woven with delicate patterns that represented her people's traditions. She pressed it into Caleb's hand. "This is for you," she said. "So you will remember that someone out there is thankful for you." He looked at the bracelet, touched by the gesture. "I'll keep it safe." The group began walking away, guiding Nayeha gently toward their path home. Caleb watched them go until they became small shapes in the distance. Even after they disappeared, he stood there for a long time, holding the bracelet tightly. When he finally walked back to the house, the ranch didn't feel empty. The air felt different, almost peaceful. Her laughter, her stories, and the bright hope she carried still seemed to echo around the place. In the following days, Caleb returned to his normal routine, feeding the animals, repairing the fences, caring for the land. But something inside him had changed. He was no longer just a quiet rancher living in isolation. He had become someone who had reached across a long-standing distance between two worlds, someone who had earned the trust of a girl he had never expected to meet. Every evening he would look toward the horizon where he last saw Nayeha and her people. He wondered how she was doing, whether she talked about her time at the ranch, whether she still planned to visit one day, and deep inside, he hoped she would, not out of need, but out of friendship. Because sometimes life brings unexpected connections, moments that build bridges instead of walls. And sometimes, one act of kindness can open a door that stays open forever. Caleb didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. He would always remember the girl who once said, I beg you, just make it quick. And how that moment led to a bond that changed both of their lives. And somewhere far away, Nayeha carried the same memory, one filled not with fear, but with warmth. A memory that made two worlds understand each other a little better,